It wasn't until probably yesterday when everything really kind of started sinking in about what's really happened, because at that time it turned into almost containing fires with how the media starts spinning David's image on the press on it as being kind of a gun enthusiast, right-wing fanatic, conspiracy theorist, a vet who had PTSD that flew off the handles and murdered his wife and his daughter and then took his own life on it. And from how the media was spinning it and how we know David personally, we knew that this situation, there's so many layers to it that it's going to take time to kind of unravel it. Because David was one of those very unique individuals that me and a lot of friends had the fortune of being able to be a part of his life. He was a private guy, but he was also very open. He was one of those incredibly smart individuals that when he would process or have these ideas that they would be coming through him almost like 1,000 miles an hour, and you would have to keep up. But he would get really frustrated because he would have to end up like dumbing himself down to really explain what he's trying to get across on it. And I say that in the context because a lot of people like that are insanely self-motivated, and especially artistically, and it's a really kind of hard level to balance when you're dealing with a regular society in general, and especially in the magnitude that with the success of just a simple concept trailer of Gray State and the topics, because they're such intense debated topics that a lot of people from activists to conspiracy theorists kind of latch onto, and they use it very much of a visual form for a spearhead for their ideology with it. So with that being said, with David around his family, he was such a softie, and when I say that, I mean when he was around his family, he was so loving, and he was so caring, and he was so in love with his wife, and he loved his kid, and being a part of that. And whenever I would be over there, me and my other friends, Adam and Mason and Sean, we knew that we were fortunate enough to actually see that. So.
The initial reports here was that it was a murder-suicide. I have reports that some investigators may be calling this suspicious at this point. That may just be, people hoping that it's suspicious. But I'm hearing that it may be suspicious, and I also have heard that there is reports of a sliding door that was left unlocked. I don't know how much you can say about the investigation. I know you're following it closely. What can you tell us about that?
The only thing I can confirm on right now is obviously the investigation's ongoing. I haven't seen the reports about it being suspicious on it. Until we get the full amounts, the full actual report from the police and what they've come to it, I haven't really, and from what we're getting from, like I said, from communication with the family and from some other individuals I'm not going to name, who are kind of coming forth with their own story, I'm just going to probably just stick to it as what the examiner said, as it being a
murder-suicide.
Suicide at this point right now.
I'm fixing a hole where the rain gets in and stops my mind from wandering where it will go.
Now, Danny, let me ask this, because I know that David obviously served in Iraq. He was an Iraq War veteran. Immediately, of course, media turns to the idea that this is an episode of PTSD, and that becomes kind of the blame for all of this. To the best of your knowledge, and I know it's difficult to speculate on this, but to the best of your knowledge, had David exhibited any symptoms or signs of PTSD in the years that you've known him?
Nothing that would, I guess, constructively fit the bill for a diagnosis of PTSD. Not in the form of David. And that could have been masked with his creativity on it. Hindsight's always 20/20, and especially in a moment like this. And I think to label that right away that this was the sole cause of it, I don't personally. I know that he mentioned that he did suffer from some forms of PTSD, and I think that all of us in some shape or form could actually, I guess in some form of diagnosis, have that. Obviously more extent than others, but nothing to the extent that immediately, this is, it's black and white. He flipped out and kind of lost his mind. It's just that diagnosis to explain the tragic events just doesn't fit with it. There's much more stuff that I guess we can only assume leading up to it, to the tragic event. And like I said, that's going to take time because we're getting little bits here, little bits there from other people that he communicated with. That's beginning to kind of allow us to get the bigger picture of what actually transpired.
When you say little bits, are you able to tell me what some of those little bits are?
Yeah, little bits are kind of more communication with David's family on it, and how he was communicating with his family on it, with things going on to it. Because David, when he would go into a very creative mode, he would kind of, I guess, go off the radar for a couple of weeks, and this is very kind of normal for him. And then he would just reemerge with these ideas, this new plan, new direction where you want to take things, or he might even have a completely different idea for a project. He just needed to get out of his head. And so for him to do that, his family was used to that. And me as being a creative partner with him and also a friend and a business associate, that was, familiar with it. It wasn't anything, there wasn't really any kind of red flags that kind of went off that we should be really concerned about. It was just the more lapse of time that was going by when we weren't hearing from him, that's when me as a collective friend started getting a little bit more concerned. Something wasn't feeling right with us. And we started reaching out to each other, and it was at a point where we were going to go over to his place kind of unannounced just to check in on him and whatnot. But like I said, hindsight, you can't really predict this sort of thing would have transpired like it did.
I'm filling the cracks that ran through the door and kept my mind from wondering where it will go. Ooh. And it really doesn't matter if I'm wrong, I'm right. Where I belong, I'm right. Where I belong. See the people standing there, they disagree and never ask me why they don't get past my door. I'm filling the room in a colorful way, and when my mind is wandering, there I will go. Doesn't matter if I'm wrong, I'm right. Where I belong, I'm right. Where I belong. Silly people worry me, they run around and never ask me why they don't get past my door. I'm taking the time for a number of things that weren't important yesterday, and I still